The war between Russia and Ukraine is entering its second year, with no end in sight into a conflict that has killed tens of thousands of people, leveled cities and towns, forced millions to flee, and brought the chill of the Cold War to global relations. Defiant President Volodymyr Zelensky vowed, "We will defeat everyone," and world leaders to impose new sanctions on Russia and countries supporting its war effort. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported on 25 February that Russia had lost 147,470 troops in Ukraine since the start of its full-scale invasion, with 650 missing as of 24 February. Meanwhile, the armed forces of Ukraine captured another Russian-fascist group. This time, the exchange fund was replenished at the expense of the PMC Wagner mercenaries. In the video released by the Telegram channel Operative ZZU, 5 detainees are face down on the ground. 2 of them can be heard answering our boys' questions about where they came from. One said that he was from the Krasnodar territory, the other from Voronezh. As you know, most of the Wagnerites are currently engaged in the battles near Bakhmut. They are also in the Soledar region and a little in the Luhansk region. On the other hand, Wagner Group founder Yevgeny Prigozhin said on Friday that the mercenary group had taken full control of the Ukrainian village of Berkhivka, a village on the outskirts of Bakhmut. Berkhivka is about 3 kilometers northwest of the outskirts of Bakhmut, a frontline town in the eastern Donetsk region that has seen heavy fighting. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported, at 1645 Russian mercenaries advanced in the forest northeast of Dubovo-Vasilivka and were conducting an assault on Ukrainian Armed Forces positions to the southeast. Fighting in Bakhmut south of the Stupki railway station district, Zabakhmutka, and southeastern part of the private sector of Kvadraty district. The State Border Service of Ukraine shows its mortar work in Bakhmut. The fighters fired several shots at the assault group and fled from the frame just in time, as something powerful exploded nearby. Broken windows shattered and bricks flew from the walls. Russia's defense ministry said on Friday that its forces had continued to strike along the front in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, claiming to have killed up to 240 Ukrainian soldiers over the last 24 hours. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue to carry out special military operations. The Defense Ministry said in a daily briefing on the first anniversary of the Russian invasion. Recent weeks have seen Russia step up infantry attacks across the frozen ground in what both sides have described as the bloodiest of the war. Ukraine said on Thursday its troops had repelled a Russian attack along the front. The Russian offensive on Bakhmut was arguably the first and decisive battle of the war's second phase. The surprise of Russia's unprovoked attack on February 24, 2022 has faded. The starved and battered Russian brigades that had tried and failed to encircle Kiev withdrew as an increasingly experienced Ukrainian brigade, armed with new Western weapons, chased after them. For the first few months, Bakhmut's operations were the main task of the Wagner Group, a shadowy mercenary company allegedly financed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, a former sausage salesman and Putin's favorite. The Wagner Group works with the Russian military, but is not part of the Russian military. In many ways, it was the army's biggest rival for resources in Moscow. Analysts have concluded that Wagner's attack on Bakhmut is the company's way of creating a narrative that it is the only Russian power still capable of defeating Ukraine. The idea, apparently, was for Wagner to stake his battlefield reputation on political influence in Moscow. Prigozhin continues to add strength and build a military structure on a par with the Russian armed forces, ASGU explained. After a new wave of Western sanctions and warnings to mark the first anniversary of the Russian invasion, Ukrainian troops are refocusing on fending off Russian attempts to advance in the key battleground in the east. Ukraine's military said Saturday it had stopped about 70 raids in the east of the country, where Russia has stepped up efforts to seize the eastern Donetsk and Luhansk regions since last month. Serhiy Haidai, head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, described the situation along the front there as difficult, but said Ukrainian troops held off the Russian advance. Russian troops launched attacks around Bakhmut, scene of some of the war's heaviest fighting, and the cities of Lyman, Kupiansk, Avdiivka, and Shakhtars, the Ukrainian military said. Locked in a bloody war of attrition, Russia and Ukraine turned to allies to increase their fighting strength for a breakthrough. Ukrainian forces will try to counter Russian attacks while causing as many casualties as possible. Later, Ukraine hopes to use its new NATO weapons if they arrive in time against Russia's depleted forces. To the south, attacks on Melitopol and the Azov Sea coast could isolate and outflank Crimea. In the east, losing Luhansk or Donetsk again would be a major setback for Russia. Ukraine had impressed its Western partners with its initial survival and subsequent campaigns, its troops showing a flair for war maneuvers and deception to keep their Russian adversaries guessing. Years of NATO cooperation, and now coupled with a flood of weapons, appear to be paying off. Ukraine is estimated to have suffered around 100,000 people killed and injured since the full-scale invasion began. Labor has always been a pressing issue in large-scale wars, and Kovalenko said Kyiv should make the most of its new army.